reigns true. We'll keep an eye out for that Renekton, I feel, as we go into game number 1. Rare Adam blue, LGD red.
You've actually nailed the big pick for me, though, in this game, Hysterics, which was that Ezreal. Because when I looked towards LGD, I was looking at Kramer, and I was like, we kind of joked about the farmer Kramer, but like it was a thing, right? Where you just leave him on his own in the bottom lane, get Mark to work with the mid jungle, and actually try and play through Shea in that mid lane. So I wouldn't be surprised to, again, if we just get this Ezreal pick, and especially when you're able to go like the Divine Sunder, the Muramana, and then like Frozen Hearts, Ravenous Hydra, like you end up with a heap of tankiness on this champion, and you're dishing out so much damage because of how absurd Divine Sunder is right now.
And I just think seeing it here as a first pick wouldn't be too surprising on top of that, right? Renekton ban, Dagda, really nice touch up there. Viego was a final ban for Rare Adam. Over to Luyan, it might just be the least in. Remember, that's still a flex, folks, here in 11.11, but more importantly, this means that the Ezreal we talked about, if LGD want to snag away, is there, and especially with the Varus already gone.
Also, things like the Rumble, right, for the jungle, the super high priority jungle that we've been seeing quite a lot, would give a nice little bit of pressure over towards Shadow, because I feel like for me, the times that Shadow has really popped off have been on these early game skirmishing champions that can do incredibly well. And it's not been so much about out-pathing, but just out-skilling and out-mechanicking, whatever the term is, his opponent. So I really want to see that kind of double down here. We are going to get the Rumble, but again, I want to see these kind of like look to play around his lane states, because that's where LGD Shadow has shown when we were looking at him over on Mad Lions.
That's right. Over Shea, right? Get that mid 2v2. That's what we're, kind of questioning whether we're going to see it or not. With the Rumble, level 6 is always that level that we talk about him having the most influence. But the Ezreal alongside him as well. 2 strong meta picks for LGD. While on the side of Rare Adam, Dagda, bottom lane cementing here. What's next?
Yeah, well, the Karma would be an interesting one, because I think when you've got an Ezreal there, Karma becomes very easy to just slot in for Hong, because even if you do end up going for this heavy engage support, it's really difficult to try and lock down, or at least kill the Karma because of the build path that Ezreal tends to take. Now, it's a little bit nicer, of course, with the Divine Sunder, but still you do need a bit of ramp-up time, so it's not exactly the easiest of plays to make.
But dude, this is the second game in a row we're seeing Diana tonight. I better put her on the top of my list, because it feels like in the LPL bubble, people are saying this champion's good, as you were saying at the start of broadcast as well, Dagda. So alongside the Kai'Sa, there's a lot of burst damage there. There's a lot of follow-up CC and a lot of ability to ambush prey from Rare Adam.
I am curious as to what the plan here is from LGD, though, because we're already seeing, look, with this Jace now locked in, you've got a hell of a lot of poke, and if you're on Ore and you've got this Diana, you've got Lee Sin, who really are champions that need to close that gap, it could be a case of that we end up seeing Ore try and flex Fofo with the Lee Sin mid, and then maybe we end up seeing Cube going back towards something like the Gangplank, like something that can at least try and slow down LGD being able to kite out the Ore composition and give them the opportunity to fight, because right now you either need Cube onto something like that, or honestly something like the Ornn, which is just a case of, right, we have this big go button to actually get onto LGD.
Because I think you raise a really valuable point there, right? We have so much poke out of LGD. They can play the range in this game number 1, and we always want to see how teams like Rare Adam can close the gap further. Of course, Kai'Sa, Diana, Lee Sin can do that, but the range is still more massive than that. Bans coming across Dagda, double ban towards Hung in the bottom lane. Nautilus, Rakan, some of his favorites from 2020 and 2021. Rare Adam banning away the Karma that can really facilitate this comp and give maybe a more passive lane to something in the mid lane.
Yeah, and this kind of just fits perfectly, right, with the bans that LGD are doing. They're like, hey, what is the guaranteed engage supports? Nautilus, because he presses or and he goes in. Rakan, because he presses or and jumps onto your face. So, right now, LGD are like, right, let's move these off the board. And for Ore, they're going, as you said, Karma, get that away. I was actually curious to see if we might get like something like a Lulu banned away here as well, because again, we could actually have the Lulu going down into that bottom side, can make it very hard to try and close the gap, or if you do, you got some decent disengage, although it doesn't really fit with Mark's style, which Leona definitely does.
Oh yeah, we remember this on the world stage, right, when he roamed.
Oh yeah, and just to bear in mind though, we have been seeing some Ezreal flex. I think we actually saw it in LCK today with Ezreal going to the mid lane, so I'm still holding off in a second to see what if that Ezreal is going to go mid, but I assume at this stage it is going to go with the AD carry and with Mark doing that heavy roaming style that you just mentioned, Hysterics.
Yeah, that's right. Leave Kramer in the bottom lane. Dagda, you're the one who so nicely put that in the bubble that, well, Kramer is, sorry, going to be the bubble. And Mark's going to start moving around the map, as we saw in the World Championship, as we saw from this LGD squad that had Peanut, that had Lungshing up there. On the other side, though, Rare Adam, part of the engage. This is situational, but with the Alistar, with the Gnar, this does feel like a nicely rounded out team comp.
Yeah, I did see them hover the Gangplank, though. I would prefer the GP here. Just
Okay.
the biggest problem that I'm seeing with the Gnar is, again, opting into that short range, right? So suddenly this RA composition becomes heavily flash reliant. Like, either Lian getting some sort of flash ult from Cube, the flash engage coming through from Hung, and with no Hex flash again, it means that you're getting less opportunities to try and make this play happen. Whereas when you look over at LGD, now you've got like a bunch of poke from Kramer, from the Rumble as well. He can toss out that Equalizer ultimate. You can look towards the Jace poke as well. Mark, and it looks like Shie now with the Silas going to be playing kind of a disengage, or well, not disengage, but at least providing that bruiser front line. So if RA ever managed to get on top of them, Shie has access to pushing back RA with this Gnar ultimate, kicking people away with Fofo, and hell, even stealing away Lian's ult to cause an absolute disaster for RA.
Yeah, that's right. You know, keep the space between them, and I like how he's kicking away with the ultimate, right? If Moonfall doesn't connect, if you don't get the Dragon's Rage, there's a lot of tools that fall down, and those flashes you also mentioned, key tools that for Rare Adam are going to have to be monitored as we go into this game. Ladies and gentlemen, Rare Adam already beat down OMG in a 2-0 series that didn't last past the hour. LGD, it's their first game here. First game with Shadow, who's joining the jungle roster and joining the LPL for the first time. I think more importantly, seeing how Shadow works with Shie and the rest of LGD is going to be our biggest question as they jump onto the Rift.
So I think here for RA, their biggest plan is to try and like power through the strong lanes that they have early, right? You've got the Gnar in the top lane, you've got Lee Sin in this mid lane who's going to be able to bully out the Silas, and even in the bot lane you're going to have a decent amount of push with the Kai'Sa against the Ezreal. So if I'm looking towards RA, I'm needing to power through these strong lanes to make sure that we enter the mid game where we have control of the objectives and we can force LGD to try and face check us and then look to use that as our gap closer.
It'll be fun to watch at the very least. See how Loyan and Fofo go with that. Welcome to Summoner's Rift in Hangzhou. We've got the LGD crowd behind them, I'm sure, as Rare Adam look to continue their starting momentum after beating OMG. And Hangzhou, ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering where it is, not too far from Shanghai, a little bit north. Another fantastic city that's pretty close together. Well, as we're onto the Rift, Dagda, I see nothing too different, but I do see a Conqueror Silas in a lane that I think a lot of the time we've seen people take fleet footwork because of how severely dangerous the Lee Sin can be.
Yeah, it's the fleet footwork does very, very well against picks that are, you know, the range component, right? Because you're going to get poked a lot. You want to be able to max the Q for the chain lash, and then you're able to trade effectively using that while having the fleet footwork to still keep your health topped up. In this kind of melee matchup, I don't mind the Conqueror too much because you can still max the Kingslayer and then be able to use that as your, you know, sustained trade with Fofo. Because that's the biggest thing when you play against a Lee Sin like this. There's two things you gotta watch out for. The E-Max is gonna be able to shove in your lane super effectively, but also the amount of sustain that comes out from the Safeguard and the Iron Will. He's gonna be able to just auto minion so effectively, heal back up any sort of trade. So Shie obviously opting here to go for that W max so he can not be just shoved out of lane like this by Fofo.
Does start with Abscond Abduct. Remember, two things of the Precipice burst as well. So gets the Kingslayer, which means he hit level 2 first. Tempest Cripple comes out, but Fofo doesn't connect. So we'll watch the trading in this mid lane a little bit closer. I think jungle matchup's going to be really interesting here, Dagda. We have the Rumble versus the Diana. And for Shadow, his debut game in the LPL, he'll be pathing up towards the top side, maybe looking to influence Garvey's lane. And I saw Cube was pretty much evening it out, so we'll see how lane management goes to give an edge for Shadow to make an appearance.
Historically, though, this is where games like this is where Shadow has struggled, where he doesn't really have a huge amount of control from his lanes. He has the ability to be invaded on pretty regularly, and there is the opportunity for Lian when he does hit 6 to try and go for that, but certainly in these early stages, the Diana and Rumble combo just means that Rumble is so much stronger in the early stages. You're not really going to be able to bully out as Lian here and try and go for these aggressive invades and capitalize on your lane states.
Instead, he's going mid. We asked about the mid 2v2. Fofo doesn't have enough energy, but Hung has roamed up. Another support that we know loves making early momentum in the league. Hung shadowing that and Shadow's not going to overcommit. So meanwhile, Loyan just does a scuttle crab. He's level 4. He's cleared more of his camps. Tempo lead for RA due to this support moving.
Yeah, but you can see there that they're trying desperately to heavy focus on Leon. They know that the danger zone for Leon is if he falls behind early, Diana just essentially becomes useless. So even investing Hung here to make sure that he can get at least one scuttle crab for himself, and that there's going to be no early shenanigans despite the fact that Fofo wasn't able to crash the wave.
I like that Mark's moving with Shadow here as well. Again, something we saw when he was alongside Peanut. The level 2 drops a ward while Loyan is spotted out. Garvey over the wall. Crescent Strike was already used, I believe, as Boy getting ganked on. Here comes the ward, but okay, never mind. It just walks back and that's that.
It's like a dog that's got caught staring at your food, you know? They walk into lane, iBoy spots them, was like, no, we were never going to do anything. No, we're just walking back out of here. This is totally fine. But it does mean here, look, Shadow will get that bot side scuttle. He's going to get the reset and be able to head towards his bottom side here, just getting to his camps as they start to reset. You're going to see the same come through from the end. So early stages, neither jungler really getting overly involved, which means that at least from the perspective of Oray, you know, you can see the lane matchups going the way, well, at least for the mid lane that they should. But for Cube, this is actually a matchup that Jace can do quite a lot with.
He can.
He has the range advantage, should be able to trade relatively effectively, but Garvey actually sitting, 10 CS down is not exactly what I expected.
No, it's not great. I mean, you're right. The matchup for the Jace has often been good. As Loyan looking to influence bottom instead. The flash is there from Hung. He gets the pulverize onto Kramer. Trample, going to be there on top of Mark as a Crescent Strike connects in the backline. But Loyan is so deep. Shadow has come on in. The Harpoon doesn't connect. It's all teleports gun blazing. And LGD getting first blood. Garvey in the middle of it, but he gets the auto onto Loyan. LGD pressed their buttons faster, and that was just beautiful to watch.
Amazing from LGD to get down towards that bottom side, shut down the play from Oray, but I mean, trying to over-aggress so heavily on towards an Ezreal, Kramer was always going to be safe. It's been the staple of why Ezreal is so good in a lane like this, is that you can just Arcane Shift away, he's fine, and Oray overextend on the play.
I love they go so deep there. Loyan without his flash, Hung going down in the end there as well. Dagda, it's 700 gold lead in the early game for LGD. And She8 picked up the kill alongside Garvey. The lane that was losing out on the top side or had a CS discrepancy doesn't matter anymore. Serrated Dirk there, and I think now we're going to see the Jace lane move a bit more in the obvious momentum that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and especially though, when you look at this wave, Cube going to be able to pick that up. The CS will go back to being in favor of Cube, but this engage from Hung, like, you have the Arcane Shift, you have the flash. I think your best bet there is to actually just headbutt the Ezreal underneath the tower. That way, at least then, when he Arcane shifts, he's only coming back onto you with the potential for you to stun him off the E from the Alistar. But you can see there, LGD, they managed to worm their way out of it, and with the double TP, they pick up those 2 kills. So Oray now already a step behind the play, and when they're kind of waiting for like Leanne to come online, I'm curious to see if Shadow can try and double down on the plays that's now happened bot, and see if he can pick up a little bit more.
And it'll be towards that level 6, right? If we're doubling down, burning some of the summoners, or rather taking advantage of them, then we expect the equalizer. We expect Hung to be kind of the target. As he has no flash, he's still not going to have the ultimate at the time. We'll just have to watch, because Shadow is at the top side right now. Loyan is the one towards the bottom lane. Dragon's being taken down, but stopped. What actually happened in the mid lane? Bottom right? Not sure. Abscond Duck was there. I don't know if Shie wanted to go back in. He had to flash away. Wow, and did Lee Sin die? Did he die in the end? That's the question. No, he didn't. So Fofo survived. But yeah, Dagda, that was shenanigans mid.
Yeah, very close to Fofo going down. Dragon, though, does go down in favor of Oray, able to work off the fact that you have to push there for Oray. So now you can try and go for Shadow and go, right, I've got a couple of lanes that I can look to try and play towards. You got Shie in that mid lane, and even if it's a case of, like, you don't get the kill onto Fofo, hitting this level 6 for Shadow and creating opportunities for Shie to roam can net you so damn much. And with the Unbreakable available to steal away for Shie here, he can even be the one to start off dives on this bottom side, or you go up towards top side, and the ability to steal away Cube's Narrow Ultimate can set up some wonderful dives there as well. So curious to see if LGD will try and get some sort of wiggle room here for Shie.
We'll see. He's got that Kindle gem, so he's already got the cooldown reduction as the kick for kick. Fofo just trying to survive. He knew he was dead. It was either into the fire or into the harpoon, and he chose a harpoon.
I don't know which is the nicer way to go, but neither sound too pleasant. As LGD now just make that play mid. Now they can move up towards Rift Tower as well. 8 minutes has hit, which means that spawn now. Still not fully convinced that they want to go for it, looks like here, but you can still see at least getting Xie ahead, playing through this mid-jungle 2v2. This is what we wanted to see from LGD.
And it's just like it's all come together so far. Bottom lane play included for LGD, but I think we've seen a couple of times his focus towards Xie. Shadow with 100% kill participation in his debut game. And LGD about 1,400 gold up. 8 minutes in, all RA have is that dragon. But as we look back here, we'll see how this started.
Yeah, you can see Fofo not taking the best of trades and kick for kick there, but Fofo's doomed with. And honestly, like, I love seeing Xie on these Sylas picks where he's able to get away with it, because there's a couple of people that really stand out for Sylas players, right? Like Xie being one of them, Knight being another, but we've seen insane plays from Xie. Like, if anyone hasn't, go back and watch the Xie performance on Sylas from against WE in playoffs, where he has this insane play at Baron that completely turns around the game and wins the game for LGD. Like, there's so many times we've seen immaculate performances from him. So when Xie already is on a champion he's so good at, and he's getting these early leads, I'm expecting big things from the LGD mid laner. Unfortunately though, with no control over this mid lane, RA will be the one that are moving over towards this Rift Herald.
So second objective picked up here for RA. The Herald means that they're going to have a lane to push that through, while plating is still very well and truly up. Dagda, I want us to progress with how we're going to be looking at this game. First of all, you were dead right. Kramer by himself constantly. Mark is now level 6 though and has continued roaming around. But Kramer's just picking up CS, looking to go towards that Divine Sunder as expected. Mid still farming away with even CS on the board. Cube still has a 10 CS lead up in that top lane, but the kill makes it so it's not too even. And Jungle with a 10 CS lead in Loyan, who's been farming, while Shadow has been looking towards mid, looking for those counter ganks as well. So it does feel like this game is still neck and neck, despite the early trading and the 1k gold lead. It's not all over for Rare Adam.
Yeah, I think this jungle matchup though is now going to look a little bit more even. Lian has that level 8 now available, but has that ultimate, which is the big thing. Should be able to have a better impact when he goes towards lanes, provide a bit more CC. The big thing for me though is, like, where does he want to put his attention? Because right now we're seeing LGD double down on mid once again. Shadow and Mark working really well together here to get deep vision, making sure that Xie has a lot of information about how far forward he can play. But Leon hasn't really been able to do the same here. It feels like the entire mid-jungle 2v2 of RA has been shut down, and it means that when we look towards RA's plans, they haven't been able to operate as well as they would like. Now, Cube, though, he's having an absolute field day against Garvey here in the top lane. Almost 3 turret plates gone for himself as well. And with Leon having this Rift Tower, they're just going to plonk it down.
And I like this because Cube's already ahead in the matchup. Loyan hitting that top side, as we saw TT trying to abuse the top side in JDG last game with said Diana as well. That means first turret blood should go up in that top lane, and does. Over to Rare Adam. Response here from LGD's Abscond Abduct on top of Hung. Equalizer doesn't really hit the mark. And LGD, they're not going to get too much out of the bottom of this play, while Rare Adam should get a charge here, and Loyan should be able to take away the topside jungle.
Yeah, the fact that they went into Hung there makes it a bit unfortunate. I thought they might have just tried to, zone the bottom lane of Ore away from the turret and go for it. Ooh,
wow.
Hang on.
Cube, even under turret, forces the flash out of Garvey. Ult was already burnt as well, so Garvey has to pay that respect, and Loyan still here means that Garvey has to be so careful where he steps.
Now, it does mean Ore will be slightly late for the Dragon if LGD decide to start up immediately, but with Kramer backing, looks like they're not really in a position to go for this. So, again, it looks like Ore, they get the play topside, they will be in a faster reset timing as well to go for this Dragon, and objectives in early game going the way of Ore, although when we look at those kills, LGD are still the ones that are in top.
But let's talk about what happens when these turrets go down, Dagda, because when you have Gnar, when you have Lee Sin, we look at the team fighting tools that if Rare Adam get on top of you, it feels like it's over, right? We talked also in the draft how LGD, their comp has great amount of poke, they have great amount of pressure with these ultimates that can create distance and stop Rare Adam from gap closing. So talk me a little bit through what happens now towards his second Dragon, towards a potential fight.
So the big thing that we talked about was, RA trying to get onto these objectives first. So then you're forcing LGD to roam into you. But you can see here, like, if LGD have control, they can look to use that poke from Kramer, who's just finished that Divine Sunder, Garvey as well.
And Hung's walked into it, uses the Unbreakable Will, the Zenith Blade doesn't connect, Loyan flashes over the wall as Xie joins in. Great timing, Dagda, you're right. No control, no worries if you're LGD, because you'll take the objective instead.
Yeah, and there's so much that you've got to worry about here if you are trying to face check LGD. Like, a stun from Mark, if it lands, is going to follow up with like a lot of that damage coming through from Kramer, the Rumble lulls. I mean, even Garvey as well, as we start to get to, 2-3 items where Jace really comes online. So for Ore, I wanted to see them power through the strength that they had through Cube in this top lane, like go for this quick reset that we were talking about and get onto the objective first, but because they'd invested so much into Cube topside, they ended up having to gift the dragon. But now, with Cube having control, he can start to be the one to move. He can start to play towards mid, and when the vision and towers start to go pushed further and further onto the LGD side, that's when LGD are going to struggle.
That's right. Control the vision, and as you said in pick and ban, LGD having to walk into brushes like this, not good. Garvey does exactly that, and he's going to get bursted down. Loyan low, though. Nara against the wall as Cube is still surviving. Loyan will drop down. Cube finally flashes away, but Xie wants to abscond to duck the hell out of this one. He'll get the Kingslayer, rip it deep with the Chain Lash, and Shadow, he wanted the kill badly. He wants a good first LPL game as he picks up 100% kill participation and his second kill.
Yeah, it felt like that was a bit of a strange fight from Ore. Cube and Lian hard committed, but Fofo was saying it's a no-go, and he stays in mid the entire time. It means that then Cube and Lian end up in essentially a 3v2, so they both go down, and even though you got the kill back for Garvey, back onto Garvey, that's still more gold going in favor of LGD, and when they had so much control and they're playing towards the strong side of the map, which is Cube, they should never be losing these. Like you can see here, look at where Xie is versus where Fofo is. Like, Fofo doesn't move the entire time. Even when we see that you get Xie moving across here, Fofo still shows in that wave. So Cube is completely alone here in the 1v2, and by the time Fofo shows up, it's already too little too late.
I love the ult on top, You ever had a salad where you thought, oh man, I'd like more salt on this, and you dump a whole lot of it. You go, oh, that wasn't necessary, was it? But now there's a lot of salt in the salad. Probably not the best analogy. I'll try again later in the game. Folks, we're approaching 15 minutes in the game. Tower plating has been down. It's 1,000 gold lead here for Rare Atom with the dragon apiece. But
TP boss.
Cloud Dragon coming through. You're right, the TP's there. Eyeboy's already forced out the arcane shift from Kramer, who now heals. He has flash. Sonic Wave connects after the Dragon's Rage. Kramer's down, and he's burnt all of his summoners to do so. Teleport was cancelled as there's a fight in the mid lane. It's 3 versus 3, and Garvey has the range here. Crescent Strike once again as the Moonfall available for Loyan, but he's exhausted. Set packing by Garvey as Mark re-engages. Shadow's ulti, not bad, but not great, as back into the fight of it. Loyan assassinates Mark, but LGD will take him down once more. It's a busy, busy day for these teams, and a bloodbath to follow.
Yeah, Ore get the play on towards bot side, but it means they're late to that mid play. But I'm surprised to see Ore again commit so many members to the mid lane. You've got your win on that bottom side. Be happy with it. You stopped the TP. You were out. Just back off at that stage. But Ore trying to fight off a little bit more they can chew. Also, the exhaust from Mark was on point. It meant that big ultimate coming through from Lian really didn't do very much. We're going to see it here. So I like that Hung goes in here, prevents the TP, and then he's able to pop the ult. Now, in this position, you either fully commit and Lian just goes, right, I'm going to pop this ult as soon as that goes in. We can get the kill onto Mark. But there you can see, the second Lian goes in, exhaust drops. Mark isn't able to go down. Garvey is still left relatively healthy, and they can actually finish off these low health members.
I also love at the end of that play as well, we saw Mark really just fully committing and spacing himself out and making sure that it wasn't a 3-man Moonfall in the end. But you're right, Dagda, not the full commit there from Loyan, not the full commit from Rare Atom, and LGD finding another play. Gold still in favor of Rare Atom as they're getting resources across the map, but with this turret going down, feels like Gold is going to soldier up a little bit there. Just have a quick look across with me. You can see first items building up for both of these teams. And after that play, I'm excited for more action, as so is Shadow. Doesn't hit the ulti, but Eyeboy Gale forces away from the Solar Flare. And that's 2 ultis for pretty much nothing from Rare Atom.
Yeah, a lot used there. And honestly, the equalizer not really hitting the Mark was the big one. If you get that slow, potential there for Mark to have an easier time with the Solar Flare. But now you can see Ore, with those 2 ultimates down, no, they're in control. They can now push in for this mid lane turret.
And on top of that, Dragons in 20 seconds. I mean, that is a huge clumsy mistake from LGD. They'll get the Herald, but it's already taken down the mid lane turret. Space is created in the map. And as Xie walks around, gets the Scuttle Crab, or at least gets some of the lettuce. I think Scuttle Crab was taken before. Rare Atom have control of the river.
Again, though, this is great for Rare Atom. The fact that they have control means that someone on LGD has to face check. And when you've got Hung, you've got Leanne, no exhaust as well onto Mark, this becomes incredibly dangerous. Now, with the way Auray is spread out, though, they're not really stopping LGD from getting into the river. And now you can actually get a heap of the poke coming through from Garvey and from Kramer.
And iBoy and Fofo are not here. I mean, they went to go attest a mid lane wave. Garvey over the wall with the poke. Look at him for the backline. He hits as well as Dragon resets. 5 versus 5 in the river. Cube about to go Mega Gnar. So LGD pay the respect as the equalizer zones away. Loyan picks up the Dragon though. But LGD fighting on two fronts as the tongue absorbing. Mark dying as well. Shea on the backline. Onto iBoy. He doesn't even just spin for it. A good Gnar against the wall as 3v3. That's all that's left here. Rare Atom into the backline. Fofo gets deleted though as Kramer, Shea and Garvey now chasing up. A double kill for Kramer. An absconded duck for Shea. And Loyan spinning with the Moon. But you know what? The Moon's not going to help you out in this situation against the guy with a massive hammer. Knocked back, slowed down, blown up. Loyan, the poke, one more time. Everfrost not needed. Garvey cleans it up.
And LGD find the fight at Dragon. Auray had the opportunity to control the space, stop LGD from getting in. But when LGD can poke and prod and make sure that Auray are feeling the brunt of their damage, they can turn that around with phenomenal performance from Shea in that fight.
He was huge, dude. The Zonyu's coming through as well. 4-0-4 from the mid laner. And Shadow's ulti to zone out the back line. I mean, this LGD roster are really taking these fights into their stride.
And you can see the equalizer there from Shadow. It puts iBoy at half health before this fight even kicks off. Exhaust there again from Mark, crucial to shut down iBoy. And at this stage, there you go. iBoy's out of the fight. The main damage source is gone. Leanne, yes, you can provide some burst with Fofo, but it's not going to be enough as Fofo goes in and Auray are running for the hills at that stage. So really strong performance there from LGD going, hey, look, let's get this poke down. And whenever Auray tried to engage with these quick burst styles and short range composition, we have exhaust availables, we have the turnaround play, and LGD pick up the fight.
I love that you mentioned, what was it, 10 minutes ago? Shea on Silas, had a really good game. Like, it's one of his good picks that I thought, yeah, it can be. Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, we get that play where he was instrumental as that equalizer starts up the teleport. Solar Flare, LGD don't care about these ulti cooldowns. They want to pull the trigger. Now, granted, Dagda, Shadow's ulti is on a pretty low cooldown. Solar Flare not the same, but maybe it's not enough push LGD to breaking down this mid turret.
There is a part of me, though, that kind of hopes that when we get to team fights, we see the reverse of what we're seeing right now, where it's Shadow constantly tossing out the equalizer, then we're getting the Solar Flare from Mark. Although you do get the slow, and it can work in certain situations, I still would prefer to see the Solar Flare hit, then you get the equalizer laid down on top of it, because it feels like right now, you're getting too much time for like the likes of the mobility on Auray to get away from Solar Flare and get away from the equalizer, because, you know, iBoy's got the speed up, he's got that Gale Force, Lee Sin is a Lee Sin, you got Gnar who has that hop as well. There's a lot there that you've got to try and deal with, so I think we need to see the CC first to let that damage really soak in over time.
Yeah, we do. I mean, that would be the perfect combo run. That's what we want to see. Moving forward, Dagda's second item coming out pretty much everyone here across the board. I will say that the big ones are the collector for the side of iBoy, because I know we haven't talked much about Rare Atom, but they're still pretty much even in gold. Despite the fights going LGD's way, Rare Atom are still even in gold. iBoy is still a menace at 2.5 items strong. This Diana from Loyan is getting towards either a Zhonya's or the Banshee's Veil. And Fofo, he's got an item and a half himself as he's chasing after Shea.
Yeah, the big thing here, though, is again, like, who controls the map? Because it feels like LGD now, at least if they play this correctly, can start to, you know, get vision control, not give Auray the opportunity to push in and, you know, go for these fights that they're really looking for. Now, as I say that, Auray are actually doing quite a good job of controlling vision around this Baron, but the big one is going to be that Dragon that's in a minute. If Auray can try and move that vision control down towards the bottom side, get there before LGD get these resets, they're going to be in good shape. But you gotta be careful as iBoy, who hasn't reset, and there's a lot of members of LGD that's cropping around this mid lane.
Garvey adding the pressure on the bottom side while that's happening as well. That's just giving vision towards Baron. Up in the top side, Fofo is a split push menace, 194 CS. And apart from iBoy, or at least the other AD carry, is sitting up there with Cube CS right now. I just noticed that as I was talking about that, Dagda. 230 CS for iBoy. He's just farming this game. Kramer doing the same fair because he's an Ezreal. But we do have a lot of gold on these core ADs that in this fight you wanted to see in 20 minutes time, we're going to have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, you can see though, LGD running away from this fight. Garvey has to go and deal with that top side. So now he's arrived. This is where LGD can now start to take a little bit more control, try and look for the poke, and see if they can push Ore back. Cube not having Mega Gnar is huge because he would love to have that follow-up with the flash engage that could potentially come through from Hung here, who honestly is actually looking a bit low himself.
Fofo on a flank, spotted out on a control ward. You mentioned that there's no Mega Gnar there, but Cube's bought enough time as Solar Flare comes in onto Loyen, slows him down, the equalizer down as well. Hung with his flank will sacrifice his life, but the rest of Rare Atom don't want to go in. Bit of miscommunication there, deciding what to do as Loyen looking for the steal, but he won't get it. 2 dragons apiece here in game number 1, and LGD get a pick, get the objective, and catch up in gold again.
Yeah, and now LGD are in, hang on, reasonably good spot. What I want to see them do, though, is we keep seeing Garvey being the man who's going to go and deal with these side lanes. I actually would prefer that to be Xie right now, because Xie has the TP, obviously, but also Garvey's pretty crucial to the start of these fights, right? You can see there, LGD don't want to approach these fights until they've got Garvey to look for the poke alongside this Ezreal. So if you've got Garvey on from the side lane, the return you get on your composition is far lower. So I really want to see Xie now kind of taking over this side lane role, because Xie can always TP in later when you've already got a lot of that burst damage down.
That's true, and his flanking angles are what made it in the last fight. His flanking angles are huge. I think Rare Atom have timed this nicely. Dagda, they caught away 2 people backing of LGD with their deep vision, so Rare Atom are trying to force the Baron.
A lot of damage coming down though. Mark, Solar Flare.
Oh, Xie stole the Nara ulti, and into the wall they go. Kramer starts battling away. It's a good kick from Fofo to disengage, but Shadow as well with the follow-up. Xie there seems to be the star of this show. iBoy with a great ulti to disengage, but man, Xie is on fire this game.
Xie on Silas, man, he looks so damn good, but LGD, they just caught Ore with their pants down. Ore tried to make the play off the reset, but again, like, if you're a sitting duck here, you can look at the damage that comes off of Garvey. Then Xie being able to steal away those big ultimates that we talked about, it's never going to end well. And LGD now with Baron and with firm control of this game.
iBoy looking for that cheeky stop to the recall, see if he gets any of the scraps of people remaining, but that's a no-go. Dagda, 6-0-5. He now has himself his 3rd item, and when you have that Cosmic Insight, Dagda, why am I forgetting this item? What's wrong with me? I play Silas.
Cosmic Drive.
Thank you so much, yeah. Cosmic Insight. It's definitely not a rune. Cosmic Insight, you now have so much momentum in this fight.
It is definitely ruining Ore, so I can understand why you're getting confused, but mid lane plays.
Solar Flare again. Mark and Shadow are just using them off the cooldown, and Hung is going to be the victim. He'll burn down, he'll tick down over to Kramer, who's 4-1-4, doing well himself. He's got his 3-item build that all Ezreal fans love at the moment. He's free-low, folks. Munchable said it on broadcast. Listen to him. That Frozen Heart is going to do so much work as well, especially to iBoy. And LGD are starting to cave in and destroy this game.
Yeah, Divine Sunder is looking pretty strong in this patch. I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah. Mark, though, sitting off in the wing here, has Shadow in tow as well, so we're going to see what they can do as Leanne takes a brunt of damage coming through from this Ezreal.
Oh my god, I mean, look at him as Garvey. Oh, he's getting soloed by iBoy, runs in. Well, iBoy solo bolo in the top lane, while LGD, their response is with the equalizer in the back line. Fofo kicks Kramer, but it doesn't matter. Ulti after ulti, Xie after Xie, who keeps on diving. His abscondum duck works out as well. He's got his Zonyas to buy some time, but LGD don't care. They're winning each and every fight, even if iBoy solos in the top lane.
I mean, the split push AD carry is the strongest question mark, because right now he has no TP, he has no way of getting back to this play, and he's not even pushing in the top lane turret. He's just going to lose the entire base when he takes a jungle cap.
To be fair, not on vision, so I guess they're going to play it safe from LGD. iBoy knows this, what the top wave is pushing in. Still going to back away, but the Baron is a success from LGD. They've pushed in the inhibitor. It's a 3.8k gold lead for LGD, and Dagderson. This is a very good look for a team that we were super skeptical about. Let's have a look again.
Yeah, I feel like, as he's saying, iBoy just about managed to hit the Void missile. And it means, look, at this stage, between Gale Force and also having the Collector, like, you just don't stand a chance as Garvey. But here we go, that mid lane play as well. This was, like, you're trying desperately for the engage. Good arcane shift away from Kramer. And from this point, you've overextended. Shia is on the flank. Hung is in base as well. You've got nothing to do. But I don't know if this is over. There's the solar flare in the bottom left corner.
And that equalizer lines the pavement that Luyan has to go over. But unfortunately, he's going to get his way out thanks to a nice little jump from the E. LGD, they've used an ulti for that. They've used shadows. And Mark again, Dagda, has used his off of cooldown. They're like brothers. Every time one of them ultis, the other has to follow.
I wouldn't mind if Mark was hitting the ultimates. Like, this is one of the... I know he's winning, and I don't want to criticize the dude too much. But this is one of the big things with Mark, is that every so often, he just whiffs everything.
He does. I mean, at least the attempts are made, right? You know, you wouldn't know if it was a mistake.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Something like that, right? Shadow, meanwhile, just going to be doing this Dragon Dagda. My lord, that was hard. So they'll go to Soul Point. 29.5 minutes in, though. LGD using the poke, part of the sieging tool for sure, to try and push in.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is kind of unstoppable now for LGD. The ability for them to try and poke and siege is so damn hard for RA to deal with. The only way that they're really going to have some amazing fight is if Hung, by some miracle, manages to get an amazing position here, which he's looking for right now, but there's wards everywhere.
It's like a minefield. It flies out from left, right, and center. You step the wrong way and you're dead. Hung with his flank, though. Shadow flashing away immediately. This is a choke, but the equalizer means if RA go into this, they're gonna die. Fofo chooses death over glory. Cube hits only one into the wall. That's Mark. As the Zenith Blade, the Absconder duck. Shie leading the charge. Shadow's first LPL game, and he's burning them to a crisp. LGD are gonna run it right on home as iBoy has one last hurrah, but one last hurrah is all it is.
Yeah, he's got to get one more knife in before the game ends, but at the 30-minute mark, LGD will take down Ore.
And they look good doing it, Dagda. This was a game, a statement by LGD, 21-7, and game one to introduce Shadow into the LPL.
And we talked about, hey, look, we want to see what Shadow can do. We want to see what Shie can do. Well, that question's been firmly answered. This mid-jungle looks so damn strong, with Shie having an amazing performance on Silas and being able to get incredibly active around the map. We said we like to see LGD when they're in these kind of skirmishes and they can play towards what are the strengths of Shadow. Well, this was the perfect game to exemplify what this team is capable of.
I mean, the Italian Stallion pulls it out, right? That was a really nice showing. Sure, the equalizers weren't always on point and some of them weren't that great. But the thing is, to pull the trigger, I think we've seen a lot of people come into the league, not from outside, you know, not from the LEC or the LCS, right? That's rarely happened if this only being the first time. I think more importantly, we've seen a lot of players come up from LDL or join the league and they've been trigger shy. So this is a nice start, and especially when LGD needed direction, when they lost Peanut, who kept the team together in 2020, when you lose such an influential figure, you need another one to take its place.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the big thing here is as well, like, although Shadow may not be very big voice in the team, you can see that he's willing to work with the big voices that are on this team. Because I know, for one, Mark is an incredibly big voice. I know Shie as well was also having quite a voice in the team back when we were looking at Summer 2020. So you can see that the coordination between him and Mark are there. Now, as we said, the ultimates and that may not have hit, the abilities may not have gone the direction they wanted, but they were still putting a huge amount of pressure on towards RA. And if Mark had been able to connect with a few more of those solar flares, this would have been an even quicker game than what we just saw.
Yeah, I mean, he missed quite a lot. But again, at least the attempt was there. I think I just love the fact that Shie was enabled through early play from the jungler. I think it was also, you know, Garvey wasn't doing too well in his lane, so it was that quick adaptation that, well, okay, lane state's good, let's bully out Fofo. On his Lee Sin, he didn't actually get much to say that game, which was surprising. So I think LGD had their number, and Dagda, more importantly, I think putting the eggs in the Xie basket has worked in the past.
Sorry, excuse me. Yes, I think so as well. I think Xie definitely is going to be a big factor for them. I think as well, looking across, I want to see a little bit more out of the RA mid jungle, because we were highlighting, hey, look, Folk and Lian look so damn good together, but we never really got to see that come to fruition, with Lian looking okay in the Diana, but the lack of early game pressure from the jungle, I think, really hurt RA.
It did. And a joy that, sure, like, Lian and Fofo aren't the creme de la creme of mid jungle, but I think Fofo's the strongest player on this roster, and it's much like JDG with Zoom, isn't it? Because when Zoom falls down, the team lacks direction. I think in a lot of those fights when Fofo wasn't too far ahead, and sure, his role is different as the Lee Sin, but Fofo not in a position of control means that RA don't have that same influence. So it was definitely very telling in that game one that it wasn't like the OMG series where Fofo had a great semblance of control in both games in that series, and Lian alongside with him. This time around, it was all about Xie. It was about Kramer. It was about Mark and Shadow, really, just dropping ults all the time. But, you know, Kramer poking from afar and LGD understanding their comp.
Yeah, but I still have hope here for RA when we go on to game 2, right? Because I feel like they've identified kind of the weak points. It's, let's get Lian onto an early game jungler where you can actually have a bit more influence, even if you want to try and take that Rumble away. Also, I think Garvey's a pretty big weak point. I mean, we saw that throughout this, even in a favorable matchup, he was struggling against Cube, and Cube, although a good top laner, is nowhere near the level of our top laners in the LPL.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm them, I'm kind of going, right, well, we can have this kind of combo between Fofo, Cube, and Lian. Let's just try and create this gaping hole in the top lane that we can play through, and potentially then look to punish that for game 2 of the series.
Yeah, because if we look towards that top side, I feel like there's a lot to be learned, a lot to be developed. You're right about Garvey, though, Dagda, for sure. Definitely feels like a weak point. But we're going to go to a break, ladies and gentlemen, when we return to see if RA can bring back some momentum in the series, or if LGD are that surprise factor that we didn't expect right after this.